can't remember the last time I was in person in a room full of people giving a presentation, so pardon my nerves. But yeah, I had the honor of working with Senator Ghazala Hashmi this summer. She's a state senator here in Virginia representing parts of Richmond City and Chesterfield County. But I actually did my work from home, which is Denver, Colorado. I also had the pleasure of working with her all throughout the legislative session this spring as a legislative intern through the poli-sci department here. So it was a long time period in her office, about 7 months, so I really got to know them, which was very nice. But as I'm sure many of you know, this summer was kind of a difficult period to be a young woman finding myself in the world of politics. It really left me questioning some of the effectiveness of politics and what I was doing with my work, considering all the Supreme Court rollbacks that were happening, and kind of felt like, you know, what am I doing here? Like, what kind of changes am I really making for people when there's kind of this federal power that seems to have a lot more to do with people's lives than the impact that I could ever have. But, you know, even though the sentiment in the office was a little bit down over the course of the summer, I found myself listening to people talking about their concerns with some of the federal Supreme Court decisions that had been made, and trying my best to kind of figure out what people were saying, take that in internally, and then hopefully help them. So one of these was concerning the EPA. So two issues that are important to me are reproductive rights and also climate justice. So I found myself informing a lot of constituents about RGGI and the implications that it'll have in Virginia, which, if you're not sure, just making sure that Virginia is still on track to reduce carbon emissions and things of that sort. But I also heard a lot from people who are concerned about reproductive rights over voicemail, and I also wrote a lot for the newsletter this summer. And we did a whole piece about the SCOTUS decision, and there was a lot of feedback. A lot of people had a lot to say, and even though probably most of it was negative, you know, people get very upset, I felt like if I was making people think, and maybe even if I had the chance to just help one person understand what the rights are in Virginia, then that would have been worth it. Alongside that, I did two other big things in Senator Hashmi's office this summer. One was initiating translations for her office. She actually didn't have any resources in Spanish, and a big part of her redistricting district is going to be Hispanic, Latino, and Spanish speaking. So I did a lot of translations for employment resources, community resources, mental health resources, and distributed those. And then I also worked on a summer-long project to establish legislation for a free community college in Virginia, regardless of income, region, and everything like that. So overall, even though in politics it can seem like everything's coming at you at once and there's always something that you have to be fighting for, the local level impacts are important. I think that working in state government really showed me the importance of state government. Knowing who you're working with, who you're working for, and like being connected to people on the ground. I think a lot of times you can get lost in the clouds. And I decided that helping even one person with maybe one of my translations, or helping one person with one thing I wrote for the newsletter would have been worth it for my summer experience in her office. And I had a great experience, love the office, and thanks to Derek, thanks to Senator Hashmi, and Dr. Urquhart, who couldn't be here, for being a great help.